Hello, Mayflom here, and as you know, I take requests for videos. Anytime you've got something you are hoping for, if it's a video that I think I can make or, that fits into my schedule, I make it. And today's request was about the scan and cut and stencils. So making stencils or masks, I'm including them in the same because a mask and a stencil, as far as using it to put some type of medium, whether it is color medium or mixed type thing like a paste or something for texture, if it's for what ink, paints, whatever it might be for. But using a stencil or a mask is something that a lot of us do. Now you can use any material you want. I have made them out of plain cardstock, and the benefit here can be cost. So for example, if I have cardstock that's been wrinkled or somehow, an edge is ruined, so I can't use this piece for, say, of the background of a scrapbook page, I can use it for a stencil. Put a nice big stencil in the middle here and allow for edges. Works really well. And here I have two different plastic sheets. Brother also makes a stencil material, which works really well. It is lightly tacky or sticky on the backside, so it does kind of stick just slightly to whatever you're stenciling on, which can be really great, assuming that you want it to. Reusability on those, you can reuse them, just not quite as much in my opinion as something that doesn't have adhesive. I like to use those, for example, when I'm stenciling on my wall, I use the Brother material. If I have a project where, I know I did one where it was on like a dresser drawer, like a little toy chest dresser drawer, and I placed the stencil on there and it was able to tack down really nicely onto the wood, and then I stenciled on there. I really like it for certain things, but for my scrapbook pages or card making or even some of my mixed media projects, I like to have a plastic stencil. This is a really thin plastic, and this is a much thicker plastic, and I believe, let's see, maybe not. I think this has a plastic coating. Yes. So this looks not clear. It is clear. It has a very thin protective layer on the top to prevent it from being scratched or mucked up. This is a much thicker plastic. Now the benefit, thick versus thin plastic. Thin, the benefit is it's really thin, so you're going to be able to get that color on there minimally. You're not going to have to scrub into the corners. Thick, you may have some problems with some medium application with things not going in all the corners because it's a little thicker. On the flip side, if you're doing a lot with paste or you want to build up a thick texture, a thick stencil is easier to build up a thick texture. So it's all personal preference, and you can do as much or as little as you like. Couple of tips. Number one, you can see my mat through this. I like to leave at least an inch on the edge so that I can get a thumb or a finger down around whatever my pattern is. I like to do that because that gives me somewhere to grip, somewhere to hold as I'm working. If it's designed all the way to the very edge, it's a little more difficult. Likewise, if you're going to tape down your stencil because you're working on something where you're taping it down, it helps to have at least half an inch. I just like the inch because my thumb presses just perfectly into a 1-inch square. So it's personal preference, but that's something to think about, not shoving your design all the way to the corner if you want to be able to have some room. Then once you've cut it out, you can obviously either use the scan and cut or just hand cut out your design. So let's go ahead and let's design one. All right, so here on my scan and cut, I have the thinner plastic loaded. Why? Well, because this is a demonstration and the thinner plastic is a lot less expensive than the thicker. So for demo purposes, I'm going to use the thinner. So you can do this however you would like. This is one way I like to do it. Go into pattern. Something to think about, I'm just going to work with a pre-made pattern here. Let's go into here. Something to think about in these patterns is that what you cut out, it's actually, so let's say, for example, let's do this one. So whatever I cut out here, depending on if I'm going for a stencil or for a mask, this would be a good mask because I could cut out this leaf part and that would be great. This would not be a great stencil because this inside part here would pop out and I would have no real way of securing it properly to the middle once again. And that's something to consider when you're working with pre-made designs. Now a note here, obviously guys, you can make a stencil out of absolutely anything you want. And what I mean by that is you can design your own in Canvas Workspace or in another program and import it as an SVG. You can use somebody else's design as a stencil. What you're looking for here and what I'm showing you with these examples is you need to understand what it is you're looking for in a mask or a stencil design. Now this would be a great stencil. However, what this would do, you would cut out this entire flower, and these little scallopy edges, that would be the edge of the stencil. Meaning, if you're someone like me that really enjoys taping things down, this design is not going to work for that. You're going to have that very thin edge. You're going to have to work very carefully with this one, you know, holding it down on one side while you work on the other side. Other ideas, you can always do things like, for example, let's see. Oh, here's another weird one. So a lot of these patterns are going to be nice for stencils, but what's going to happen is you're going to have kind of a stencil mask combo because you're going to go inside all of these spaces, but you're also going to get most likely some color outside as well to give it some shape. It's just something to think about how things are going to work, how things are going to look. I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. Although I'm going to make it a little bit smaller here. So go into Object Edit and let's size this down so it's about 6 inches high. That's, well, close enough. Okay, and I don't need to worry about my edging because this entire thing is going to be cut out. Versus, oh, okay, so I was cutting on the large mat yesterday. Here on this little, this little tool is how you change what size mat. So if you're ever working on one and going, wait, why is that that way? Because I have the 12 by 24 mat in here. Anyhow, we're going to go okay until we get back to add. We're going to add pattern, and this time I'm going to design my own little stencil. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go in here. Let's see. You know what? We'll make a little diamond stencil. I'm going to make it small. This is just a for example. Obviously, if you're going to make a stencil, you can design whatever you would like. You can use as much or as little as you would like. I'm just trying to show you a for example with this. This is not a finished project kind of a video. So you could insert your own designs. You could make your own, and you could do this in Canvas Workspace as well as other programs on your computer if you prefer. So let's move this guy over there, and let's move this guy up here, and let's move this guy over here. Okay, so I'm making like a little kind of a sunburst there. Okay, we're going to say okay to all of this. When you're ready to cut, you just go like you would anything else. So that's the real bottom line here with making your own stencils. You're cutting exactly how you cut everything else. There's absolutely no difference in material. And that goes for, well, basically everything. The difference is going to be the techniques that you use, but also what are you cutting out and how do you like it? So we're going to go ahead and cut that out. So everything is cut out and I can lift this material off. So as you can see, as I had mentioned, and let me get a, let's see, let me find a piece of contrasting material here to just kind of show you a little better. I think maybe this blue will work well. Okay. So as you can see, it just cut out all the way around. And that's why I say if you are thinking of using this base as a stencil, that would not work well. However, this over here, my little diamond pattern would, because I can cut around this. And actually, you've got a couple of different options. You can just cut around it with a pair of scissors, or you could have used your ScanNCut to insert a square, a certain amount of area, or a different shape. I know I did one time, I did a series of tag shape and made stencils on them, and then was able to just flip through my tags and do stencils. But you can see that works really well, because what you want is designs, big or small, cut out, but that don't cut out the whole entire area. You want them to cut out just the small area. So what does that leave us with? Well, over here, this is a beautiful stencil, by the way. It would be really fun to work with. And I'll do a little ink demo here in a moment. So it leaves us with this as a stencil, which I think would be really, really fun. However, I do think you would need a little bit outside of the lines. I think if you just went inside the lines, it wouldn't be enough visual to really explain that this is a flower with leaves. And the other portion that's cut out, so for example, our little diamonds, these are probably too small to make masks with, to hold. I mean, you technically could, but it would be very difficult to place these and use them as masks. In other words, when you're masking, you're coloring all the way around. When you're stenciling, you're coloring in the gaps in the design. So let me pull out a piece of paper and just give you a quick little demo of how these will work. Here, just to demo real quick, over on this corner, I will do our little diamond shape. So as you can see, the more space you give yourself around your design, the easier it is to color. I'm just using an ink pad and a foam blending tool just for a quick demo here. And the great thing about using plastic for stencil is we can wash this off. That purple residue, the ink, will wash right off. So that's one. You can see how easy that is. You can see that how fun that is. We could talk stencils all day long. Now here's my other one. And I'll do a similar thing here. So this is just regular paper, and I'm just using, as I said before, an ink blending tool just to show you just approximately what it's going to look like. So if I don't go outside the lines, it does work. I mean, it is doable. It's just not quite the same. So let me get some green ink on here now. And as you can see, I have to be very careful if I'm trying to not get the outside. It's a little bit difficult because of how thin that is. Now there are things we could do. We could very intricately tape around and etc. But you can also see how that looks okay. It's just not quite as, visually it doesn't quite line up as much versus, let's see, let me just get my stencil line back up here. So if I go outside of the lines a bit, well, number one, it's much easier, obviously. And this may slip a, oops, I put in the purple. That's okay. This is just a demo. I did it again. Okay. Let's try not to get the purple. Let's try to get the green. Oh, well. Anyhow, the point was, if I go outside the lines, and obviously I am going very quickly here and not with a lot of finesse or technique. Really, this is just to show you how it could possibly work. As you can see, there's a lot of fun to be had here. There's a lot of possibilities. I just love how that turned out, and I think this is a lot of fun. So, a lot of things. If there's questions that you have that come up, certainly let me know, but there are definitely endless possibilities for stencils with your Scan and Cut. That is for sure. Whether you utilize pre-made designs or design your own, it is a whole lot of fun and adds so much to your creative projects. I'll see you next time.